Are there differences in estate planning for business owners versus non-business owners? Yes, there are significant differences, and we're going to talk about that in today's video. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the differences for estate planning for business owners versus non-business owners. My name is Pantea Fozouni with Palm Desert Law Group. So the differences are pretty significant for business owners versus non-business owners when it comes to their estate planning. Now, something that everyone needs, no matter what, is a will. You always start with a will, and it is literally the most critical document that we all need to make sure that we have in place. Now, a basic will is going to talk about who you want to administer your estate after you're gone. It's also going to talk about who you want your assets to go to, when you want them to go to it, and it talks about a bunch of other things as well. The second thing that most people, not necessarily everyone, but most people need is a revocable living trust. Reason for that is that a revocable living trust is going to help avoid the very public probate process, and it's going to make things a lot easier for your loved ones when something happens to you. So those are the two things that just about everyone, business owners and non-business owners, need. We've got a bunch of videos where we kind of talk about wills and trusts and break them down a lot more. So definitely welcome to check out one of those. The third thing that business owners need to make sure that they do is they need to have a succession plan in place for when they are no longer in the business. Now, succession plan is great because it gives everyone clear direction about what they should do, who's going to take over the business, also kind of what the goals are for the business so that the vision of the founder can continue to live on within the legacy of the business. A lot of times when business owners, you spend so much time in the nitty-gritty, down in the trenches, building your business, focusing on your business, last thing most people want to think about is what happens either when they're ready to sell. Most of us don't think that far ahead, or two, what happens to us if the unexpected happens and we die. When you don't plan, you're basically asking for court and conflict for your business and by extension for your loved ones. If you don't have that plan in place and something unexpected happens and you die, then a lot of times having to go through probate process, especially if you don't have proper plan in place, if you don't have proper agreements in place, a lot of times you just end up in court and it ends up being left to a judge, third party, doesn't know you, doesn't know your business, doesn't know the people, to make decisions about the business, which can take time, it can take money, and depending on how long it takes, there might not be a viable business around anymore. So having a clear succession plan is very key so that if something unexpected happens, the other players know exactly what they need to do to continue the business, and that's really the best opportunity there is for that business to go on without you. The next thing that most business owners are concerned about is how to minimize their taxes. Now, this one is one of those interesting, tricky things that it's going to be very different business by business. So I can't really give particular advice that's going to apply to everyone. It's really going to be on a case-by-case basis. This is one of those areas where having a good CPA and having your business attorney talk with each other, work together, is going to benefit you the most. CPAs have a lot of great tricks up their sleeve about what they need to do in order to minimize those taxes for you, and making sure that your attorney is on board so that everything works hand in hand, goes really well together. Now at our office, whenever we have a business client come in, we always look at not just the legal foundations of the business, we also look at the insurance, the financial, and the tax foundations, but we are not CPAs, so any advice we give is based more on the legal side of it. Having a great CPA is always going to be key and one of the best team members you can have on your team. The next item is the power of attorney. Now this, along with items 1 and 2, will and trust, is something that everyone needs. Now power of attorney gives someone authority to basically be able to pay the bills, keep the lights on, until you're able to come back and do that yourself. Now we've got two types of powers of attorney. We have a springing power of attorney, which means that it only comes into effect when a particular trigger happens, typically if you're incapacitated or if you're in the hospital, or we have a non-springing power of attorney, which means that from the time that you sign it, it's valid and people have that authority. Now, when you have, let's say, a bank account, if you're the only person on the bank account, you're the only person who has the authority to do anything with that bank account. Doesn't matter if you're married, doesn't matter if it's a business bank account and someone else is in the business. If you're the only person on that account, you're the only person who has that authority. The power of attorney names the person that you've named as the power of authority. It gives them the power to go and take care of that, do things related to that account. Now, a power of attorney isn't typically just for one account. It's typically for all bank accounts and, all sorts of different financial instruments like retirement accounts and investment accounts and so on and so forth. You can have a very broad power of attorney. You can have a very particular power of attorney. This is one of those documents that everyone needs. Now, if you're a business owner, power of attorney may or may not give the person the authority to act on your behalf for the business. It really depends. It depends on the type of asset it is. It depends on who else has authority to go on. So if you're a business owner and let's say you've given your brother power of attorney, but he really doesn't know anything about the business, and you have a business partner who's on all of the accounts, well, that business partner really is the person who should be handling things. Brother really should be handling your personal effects. But no matter what, having that power of attorney is going to be incredibly helpful, because if you don't have it and someone needs to get into one of these accounts, the only alternative is by going to court and having, again, a judge, a third party, grant them that ability. Without that and without the power of attorney, the other people aren't going to be able to really do anything with your accounts. So that's the next tip, having a power of attorney. Something everyone needs. The final tip I've got for you today is about organizing key records. Now, this is another one that's important for both business owners and non-business owners. It is vital to keep all of your important documents in place together. Make it really simple for your loved ones should something happen to you. For on the personal side, the non-business owners, it's really important. You want to make sure you have deeds to all of your properties, pink slips for all of your vehicles. You want to make sure you have a list of all of your bank accounts and investment accounts and retirement accounts and basically all of your assets. Why? I don't know if you know, but there's something called a Department of Unclaimed Property. Every state has one. In California alone, do you have any guesses about how much is currently in there? Yeah, I think the answer is going to surprise you. It is over $9.3 billion. Not million, billion. Over $9.3 billion. The reason why there's money in there is because, let's say someone died and there was a bank account for about $1,000 and there was no beneficiary designated. Or there was a life insurance policy for $25,000 and the beneficiaries who were listed had died or couldn't be located. It's funds that don't truly belong to the state, they belong to someone, but the state can't figure out where the money needs to go, so the state just dumps it into this one account. You may have money in there right now. You can just go onto Google, you can Google your State Department of Unclaimed assets, and you can put in the information that's required, and you can see if there's any money of yours that's in there. If you've lived in other states, it's also a good idea to go into that state's department, do searches there, because it's very possible that maybe you have a small retirement account that you've forgotten about from your first job when you were 20. It's very likely that it's in there. So that's something that is important that everyone should consider. And that's why it's really important to gather all of your important documents, all of your important information to help ensure that none of your assets end up in that Department of Unclaimed Property. It's also important to go through and make a list of all of the accounts that you have as well, especially online. These days, everything is online. So making sure you have a list of your usernames and your passwords. If you use a password manager, which is great, making sure that you have the master password, the master username for that, and putting it in place with the rest of your documents so that if a loved one needs access to it, they're able to find it very easily. So that's something that both business owners and non-business owners need. Now, something else the business owners also need is to make sure that their corporate records are up to date, regardless of whether you have a corporation or an LLC, even if you're just a sole proprietor. You want to make sure that all of your business records are up to date. They're all kept in the same place, so it's very easy for you to find. You're going to want filings that you've done with the state. You're going to want information about those bank accounts, about assets, about your employment agreements, your insurance agreements, agreements with vendors and with customers. You're going to want to make sure you keep all of that stuff handy, all of that stuff readily available. And of course, when you have that succession plan, make sure that that's along with it as well. So once again, my name is Pantea Fozouni with Palm Desert Law Group. I hope that this video was helpful for you to know the estate planning considerations that are important for business owners as well as non-business owners, and most importantly, the differences between the two.